Everyone's pulling drums from essentially the same places these days, but artists and producers are ending up with wildly different results. And what I've learned, and the opinion that I've effectively come to, is that it's less about the samples and more about the decisions you make. 3 specific decisions, in fact. It used to take me hours to program drums that I thought sounded professional, and half the time I'd go back days later just to completely rip it apart and rewrite it again. But now I can make drums in almost no time at all, and rarely go back except to make little tweaks here and there. So today I'll show you the 3 decisions that I make every time I sit down to write drums, and the exact order in which to make these decisions in, so you can avoid being overwhelmed by all of the choices and spend your time on the things that actually matter. Okay, let's jump into the first point. Pattern. Pattern is the biggest swing that you can take, because if you change where the drums fall in the bar, you can alter the entire emotion and feeling of the record. And it's the only one of these decisions which can actually change what the song is. So it is the most important to tackle first. And if you've ever watched a live stream or a breakdown video of Fred again and how he works, you'll see this in action. Because at the bottom of his Logic session, you'll often see grayed out tracks of different drum grooves that he's tried over his existing melodic and vocal parts. Why? Because he's experimenting with the feel of the record. And essentially, it's about the emotional alignment of the way that the groove makes you feel and the way that the vocal wants to be presented in the track. So let me show you exactly what I mean, and let me open up Ableton. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've got a very basic vocal and melodic loop of Splice, and I'm going to show you exactly the feeling changes that happen when you just change the drums. So here's the first one. See you from a mile away. Sounds pretty cool to me. There's a few things that I'm hearing at the moment, but let's jump on to the next one. See you from a mile away. Okay, so this one feels a little bit stiff to me. And for me, that's a straight away no, so I'm just going to mute that off. When I do things like this and when I approach it, everything is very binary. I'm basically hearing something and emotionally reacting to it, and almost straight away, it's either a yes or a no answer. And so that's a straight up no. Let's have the next one. See you from a mile away. That sounds pretty sick, to be honest. I quite like that one. Let's go to the next one. See you from a mile away. Okay, I like that one as well. That's more simple than the last one. But let's go back to the first one just to see if we can discount that or not. See you from a mile away. Okay, so if I mute the vocal here, that almost sounds really cool, but if we're listening to it with the vocal in, because the vocal is almost almost constant, the intricate swing and the drum grooves that we hear on maybe the congas or whatever that percussion part is, it almost interferes with the way that the vocal is feeling. So I'm not really able to do that one. If I was starting from scratch with a beat, that might be a cool idea, but the vocalist would end up writing something different over the top, I'm pretty sure. So that brings us down onto these last 2 for the decision making. See you from a mile away. And I think the same sort of thing applies. Again, if I was writing a beat or something, I think that this one would work. It's like almost giving me like Drake vibes kind of straight away, which is really, really cool. But at the same time, my focus is taken away from the vocals. So straight away, I think that this is probably the final one. It is the most simplest, I think, probably out of them. But at the same time, it seems to be in alignment with the vocal. And now we've selected the groove that we feel aligns with the vocal the most. All of the problems are kind of downstream from emotion. And if I hit solo on this loop, I can start to hear problems and things that were annoying me almost straight away. Because this is a loop, I can't go in and make those adjustments straight away. So I need to start to rebuild that loop from the ground up. And to me, the kick sort of feels a little bit undefined, a little bit unfocused in the low end. And the hi-hat is just so overpowering to me. And this is where sound selection comes in. And if you don't know about sound selection, imagine it like this. Imagine you've gone on holiday and you've had the best meal of your life. And then you come back home and you try to prepare that exact same meal. And you can follow the recipe to the letter, but often it's not the recipe that actually lets you down. It's the ingredients themselves. And the simpler the recipe, the more the ingredients matter. And sound selection is very similar to this, because often the genre is the thing which is dictating the ingredients that we have to choose from. Rather than being overwhelmed by a huge amount of choice, let's try and refine the amount of sounds that we actually have to choose from. And let me show you exactly how I do this a lot of the time. Back into Ableton, and often what I will do is I'll just jump onto Splice, and if I want to replace the kick drum, for instance, I will just go here, select drums, select that we're in a house genre, and click onto one shots, and then click down onto kicks, and select the most popular, because oftentimes it's actually some of the most popular drums that fit the genre the best. If we're in deep house and we kind of want to go for a more chilled vibe, then we can go in that direction, or tech house, a little bit more up-tempo, aggressive potentially, and we can sort of refine a little bit further from there. And again, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're in house or hip-hop or pop, the same sort of method will apply. And then I'm going to go through the top 10 or the top 20 in that genre or subgenre and download or flick through and pick the top ones which I actually like the best for the song, drag them into the session and audition them within the session against the drums and the vocals. So now let me play for you a before and after. Here is the original loop, and here is after I have gone through a sound selection process. See you from away. So to me, my version feels a little bit more relaxed. It feels a little bit more groove-centric rather than this one feeling a little bit more forced. And you'll actually notice that if you're looking super closely, I've used the original percussion and the original hi-hat loop from the original sample to retain a lot of that feeling. And oftentimes, if you just search for the first part of the name of the file, if you use a loop from Splice, you can pop it into Splice, and oftentimes you'll find the loop broken apart into different elements, which is a good little hack to keep the parts that you like, be able to fix the parts that you don't like. So that's exactly what I've done here. But by replacing every sound, now we've actually changed the relationship between them. Each part is now sounding good on its own, but some of them sounding wrong when compared against each other. And that introduces our third thing to look at, which is mixing, or probably more simply, just leveling. And essentially we're leveling because we've essentially just replaced and completely recreated the drum groove. So each of the individual elements aren't acting the way that they should. You've got the solidity there now of the kick drum, but the hi-hats aren't quite as exciting as they could be. And so rather than jumping straight for an EQ or compressor or something a little bit more complex in the mixing arsenal, we just simplify. Again, thinking about the biggest swing that we can take. So let me show you what difference it makes by just adjusting level in the mix. Here is before. And after. You know what I'm trying to say. So after is so much more exciting, so much more engaging for the listener. And how have I got there? Well, probably one of the most and often overlooked things that professional mixers will do, especially when they're just starting out or learning how to sound better. And that is referencing. So for me, I have gone and I've taken a reference of a record which I like the sound of. In this case, it's a track by Josh Baker called Back It Up. And we're just going to have a little listen to the drums in isolation. Okay, so if I listen to the unmixed version, and I flick between the reference and the unmixed version, I can hear that the hi-hats are way too quiet and the clap is a little bit loud. So we'll pull down the clap And we'll turn up the hi-hats. And also there's a little bit of reverb on the clap, so let's add a little bit of reverb there. Great, that sounds good. So what I can actually do now is I can actually audition Josh Baker's track within my track and sort of see how it feels. You know what I'm trying to say. And here's a little extra tip, is that when I'm using that reference, not only can I use it as a mixing and a leveling reference, but I can actually search for ideas within it. So in this case, I've actually thought to myself, potentially we need a little bit of extra interesting percussion here, sort of panning from left to right and giving me something a little bit interesting every once in a while. And also, I've got an alternate kick drum here, which is a little bit similar to the reference that I've chosen, just to see how that sort of changes things after the fact. Now, I've got no bass line in this track at the moment, so where this kick drum sits, it might depend, but maybe I'll keep both as an option. Have a listen to this. Here's before. And then a different kick drum and a little bit of percussion. You know what I'm trying to say. So straight away, it gives a little bit more of a techie kind of vibe to it. This feels a little bit more sample-based and relaxed, and this feels a little bit more kind of techie. So depending on where the track goes, I've got options here, which is great, but not too many options. And now, as a byproduct of going through this process, I've got more elements that I can add and remove to make a more interesting arrangement. So potentially in some sections, I can remove the kick or maybe remove the hi-hats to change the emotion of the track as it progresses through the song. And the first time that you start to hear what it sounds like to have a more professional drum sound, a lot of the overthinking starts to disappear. You stop second guessing your track because everything is starting to become emotionally aligned to the song and the vocal. So if you want to see what it actually looks like when an artist stops second guessing and starts actually trusting their own direction, then watch this video next.